Hey there, race fans. It's Race Day Top 5 with me, Frank 5. The Monster Mile. He'll reach out and grab you when he wants to. You'll be cursed. This track has been known for being notorious and hard on drivers, especially rookies. And today, Miles the Monster played a lot of tricks on everybody, including their tires. But one driver didn't fall into the Monster's grasp, and it happened to be the sport's most popular driver and our point leader, taking the victory. Let's talk about what happened on this postponed Monday edition of Dover. Number 1, Chase Elliott picks up his first win of the 2022 season, capturing today's Drydene 400 at Dover International Speedway, breaking a 26-race winless streak. Yes, 26 races since he last won, holding off Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Chastain, Christopher Bell, and Alex Spellman to get his first win of the season and second at this track. Chase Elliott, so far this year, very consistent, running up towards the front, leading a lot of laps, but most of the time, they don't really be there. They're not really there at the end because sometimes the crews kind of fall support to the very end and they kind of miss on the last pit stop, which prevents them from having an opportunity to win. At Phoenix earlier this year, they were very, very strong. I mean, they ran up in the top 5 all day long. They led a lot of laps. And then on one of the last pit stops, they fell back to 6th, and then they spun out late, and they had to settle for 11th place. Fontana earlier this year, I mean, the pit crew, that wasn't their fault. You know, he hit the wall early on. He fell down 2 laps. He got both of them back and worked his way back up to the front. It looked like he was going to be the guy to win the race until he and Kyle Larson had that contact, and you get the gist of that. Bristol dirt race, they were up front a lot. They fell back with track position, but worked their way back up to get an 8th place finish. Richmond, they were very solid the entire day, but the last pit stop, start the final stage, they struggled mightily, and they took a while before the car finally came to them. Unfortunately, it was too little too late, and they could never really get a good finish out of that. The past 2 races for the 9 team, again, it's been very consistent, running up in the top 5, getting some top 5s, getting some top 10s. Their lone top 5 actually entering today was at Coda. But this weekend, we all knew that this would be an opportunity for him to get to Victory Circle because Dover International Speedway happens to be Chase Elliott's best track as far as his average finish goes. He won here in 2018 in the fall, which got him his second career win and got him into the round of 8 and didn't have to worry about Talladega. There have been a couple of opportunities where he's had the chance to win here. Of course, the 2017 fall race where he lost in the last lap to Kyle Busch. Both 2016 races finished in 3rd place. That's very impressive for your first time there at Dover on the concrete in a cup car. And, last year he was part of the 1, 2, 3, 4 Hendrick finish, finishing in 3rd place. Dover's always been good to Chase Elliott. And this weekend it was. Ran up front a lot in yesterday's portion of the race before he got postponed today because of Mother Nature. Probably should have started a little earlier, but oh well, what are you going to do? Then he started the race today, and it looked like he was going to win stage 1, leading a couple laps at the very end, but Denny Hamlin on the fresher tires got him. And in second stage, ran top 5, finished 10th in stage 2, and was pretty much running in the top 10 for the most part in the final stage. And then a caution came out, which took a couple of our top contenders out of the running for the win, and that propelled him into the top 5. And he had a nice battle those last 2 restarts against Ross Chastain, who already has 2 wins this season. Of course, one last week at Talladega and at Coda earlier this year. And on the last restart of the race, Chase Elliott got the best of Chastain on the inside going to turn 1, passed him for the lead, and took off and didn't look behind him. There was a couple times where Ricky Stenhouse was kind of closing in on him, but it was because Elliott was in some dirty traffic. Then he quickly maneuvered by them, and Stenhouse got stuck in that traffic and had a hard time getting by. But Chase Elliott in the very end gets his first win of the season and locks himself into the playoffs for a dude that came in, again, leading the championship standings. Still leads it today with a 50-point advantage over Ryan Blaney, who didn't have a good day despite winning the stage. And Chase Elliott, this is the first oval win for him since his 2020 championship year, winning the finale at Phoenix. Because again, usually the driver that wins the championship wins the race in the finale. And he did that. He won 2 races last year, but they were the road courses at Coda and Road America. And Elliott, again, has had speed to win some of the oval races this year. And today, they put it together when it mattered the most. And they had good speed in their car. They're officially locked into the playoffs. And now that Chase Elliott's got a win, I got a feeling that there's going to be a few more wins coming in the way of this 9 team. So, all in all, great day for the 9 team and Chase Elliott and Alan Gustafson. They are playoff bound with their first win of the season at one of their best tracks. Number 2, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., a much-needed second-place finish. A great run for the 47 team. I did not see this coming. This was a very impressive run. They have had so much bad luck. They have been literally below mediocrity this year. They have been terrible. They have not had a lot of good finishes. They've had a lot of crashes. Their lone top 10 entering this race was a top 10 out at Fontana earlier this year, where they ran top 10 for the majority of the race. Last weekend, I felt like it was an opportunity for them to run up to the front and battle for the win, but in the middle of stage 2, they were caught up in that late on that restart, just one corner into turn one after the restart where Joey Logano hit the wall, ricocheted into the traffic. Stenhouse was part of it, and he never finished the race. Today, this weekend, he had a good run, ran top 10 the majority of the race, and got to the top 5 in the final portions of the final stage, and was running in third place in that last restart, got by Chastain. And if Ricky Stenhouse Jr. had caught Chase Elliott at a time where Elliott was stuck behind traffic and can never maneuver around them, then we might have been talking about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. winning at Dover instead of on a super speedway. But in the very end, he comes up short. He was happy with the result, but kind of disappointed because the guy finishes second, wants to be number 1. But it was a big boost of confidence for this 47 team because, again, they came in today 31st in points. Remember, if you win a race, you have to be in the top 30 to be playoff eligible. So they're back in the top 30 more than likely with this run that they had today. So round of applause to the 47 team and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. They did a great job today. Number 3, Ross Chastain, Martin Truex Jr. These guys just couldn't seem to let each other go today. They were stuck together like glue, or, it's like a magnet was connecting these guys all day long. They ran top 5, top 10 with the majority of the race together. Chastain led a lot of laps. Truex was challenging him. And they were battling for third place in the last lap where Truex got into the back of Chastain, but Truex actually spun himself around. Chastain had to settle for a third place finish while Truex ended up with a 12th place finish. I believe that's where he finished. When he spun out, the caution came out as they were coming to the checker flag, but I guess he finished 12th. I'm pretty sure that's where he finished. They had a conversation on pit road. No fist fighting, no punches thrown, no yelling at each other. It was just a casual conversation because Truex, he's kind of a quiet guy, unless if he normally wins, it's when he gets all hyper and excited. It was just like a casual conversation, about the racing. I mean, he probably was a little upset because he had a chance at a nice, solid finish. And Chastain, who already has 2 wins, doesn't necessarily have to worry about points whatsoever. And Chastain, I think he said at the very end, saying, we're talking about where we're gonna fish next week. I'm not sure if that he meant it or that was sarcastic, but again, it was just hard racing at the very end, and kind of forming some rivalries with some drivers going at each other when it comes to battling for position this year. Particularly Ross Chastain's one of those guys, but it was a good battle between both of those guys all day long, battling it up for at least the lead or top 5 or top 10 when they were running the race today. Number 4, Kyle Busch, the birthday boy. He turned 37 years old today, and it looked like he was going to win on his birthday for the 3rd time in his career because, remember, he's born on May 2nd, and he won in 2009 at Richmond and last year at Kansas. It looked like today he was going to have the car to do it. I mean, the beginning, they weren't good, but in the stage 2, they got themselves track position and made some adjustments to the race car, and they were very, very strong. And it looked like with the final stage, Kyle Busch, the race fell right into his laps. He was going to run away with it. But when he pitted along with Alex Bowman, who was battling him for the lead at the very end of the race, a caution came out for a wheel that came loose from one of the cars out on the racetrack and pinned the 18 car and the 48 a lap down. They both took the way row and everyone else had to pit. They got their laps back, and all Kyle Busch could get out of that was a 7th place finish. They had the best car today, no doubt. They led the most laps, over 103 laps. But Kyle Busch was pretty upset, I think, because he wanted to win on his birthday, and they had the car today. They were finally putting things together. I mean, he already has a win this year. He won the Bristol Dirt Race a few weeks ago, but he wanted to put things together, considering that there's still a lot of speculation right now about his future, if he's going to be back with Joe Gibbs Racing next year. And if he is, what's the sponsor going to be? What's the majority sponsor going to be for Kyle Busch? But a good run for him today, although he probably would have loved to win his birthday. Winning on your birthday, I think, would be really special. Number 5, tires. Holy moly, Miles the Monster really played havoc with these guys as far as their tires this weekend. I saw in practice, a lot of guys were out of control, slipping and sliding, guys hitting the wall like William Byron, who had to go to a backup car. And in the race this weekend, there was a lot of cording on these tires. Eventually, we got a little bit of tire grip into the racetrack, but the tires would just absolutely, cord and wear out, and guys would lose control of the race cars. Happened to Kyle Larson early in the race today. He spun off of turn number 4 with a flat right rear tire and hit the inside wall, but they fixed the car and he was able to rally for a solid 6th place finish. Tyler Reddick and Ty Dillon, they had tires go down. They had to pit during green. And loose wheels also was a problem. Christopher Bell, at the start of the final stage, had to pit. Not the final stage, the second stage. He had to pit after a couple laps into the second stage because he had a loose wheel. He fell a lap down, but he got it back, and as mentioned, he rallied to finish with a nice 4th place finish. But then, of course, there's uncontrolled tires as far as coming off your race car, and it happened again today to Denny Hamlin, who just a few minutes after winning stage 1, comes to pit road with everyone else. He leaves pit road first, and then all of a sudden, tire fell off. And that's going to result in a 4-race suspension for Chris Gabehart, because the rule states that if you lose a tire on the racetrack after you just pitted, if the tire comes loose and falls off the car, including the wheel itself, that results in a 4-race suspension for the crew chief, the jackman, and the guy that changed the tire. I know it sucks, but the rules are the rules. And it happened late in the race and changed the outcome of the race for Kyle Busch and Alex Bowman. When they pitted, again, the caution came out because A.J. Allmendinger, who's running very well today, lost a tire completely on the racetrack, and he had to go to the garage area, but I think it was more than just the tire that's in the garage. Maybe it was an engine thing, or maybe suspension, mechanical-wise. Regardless, it took him out of the race, and, these tires, again, with the one lug nut on each tire this year, remember, it's just one, not 5, it's one, with this big 18-inch aluminum wheel. Obviously, it's a change for these tires as far as changing them, and you got to make sure you tighten them properly. If you lose one of them, then the tire's going to fall off. It's going to go onto the racetrack, and the driver's going to lose his crew chief for the next 4 events. So the crew chief for the 11 and the crew chief for the 16 will not be with their regular drivers for the next 4 races, which are Darlington next weekend, Kansas, Texas All-Star Race, yes, that does count, and the Coca-Cola 600 at the end of the month of May. So the rules are the rules with these tires. It sucks, but sometimes you got to tighten them. That's one thing about it. And the cords of these tires just unbelievable. I mean, it's obviously a new track with this new type of tire. Probably felt like we're going to have a problem like this sooner or later, and we had it this weekend. But, it provided a lot of fun restarts today. That's one thing I'll give it credit for. All in all, the racing this weekend at Dover, this was one of the best Dover races in a while. It wasn't the best, not the greatest of all time, but it was a solid above-average Dover race with these restarts. And, even if you get out, dirty air obviously affects the guy behind you. If you get the clean air, it means everything. But there were a lot of lead changes, actually, in this race today. We had 18 lead changes, which, by Dover standards, that's really good. And the crowd, oh my goodness, yesterday before the race got called to be moved to the rest today because of wet weather, the crowd at Dover was one of the best I've seen in a long time. And as a dude that's been to Dover many times, it's my home track, it made me feel very, very happy to see that crowd size yesterday. Some of them obviously couldn't return today, but I honestly thought that the crowd for today's race was actually not that bad for a race that got postponed to Monday. Obviously, not everyone can stay because they got to get back on the road if they travel a little farther than maybe 2 hours, or they had to go to work today. Obviously, it's Monday. But it was a good crowd by Dover standards, and the racing, I felt like by Dover standards, very solid. Let's hope this is on the schedule next year, because there's some rumors about whether or not it's going to be on the schedule. Although there was a sign outside of the Speedway where it says, renew your 2023 tickets. So that kind of means it's going to be back on the schedule, but let's see. I hope it is, because this was a good race for Dover, and I feel like it's going to help them a lot. I mean, not just because NASCAR's most popular driver won, but the racing in general and the, all these restarts and the chaos on the racetrack, I felt like put a lot of entertainment for all those fans today. So good job by Dover standards. And it was also fun to have Larry McReynolds back in the booth this weekend with Mike Joy and Clint Boyer. That was a lot of fun. And next weekend at Darlington, we're going to have 3 legends for 3 stages. Richard Petty for stage 1, Bobby Labonte for stage 2, and Bill Elliott. Awesome Bill from Dawsonville, aka $1 Million Bill when it came to the Winston Million back then, in the booth for 3 stages next week. It's going to be a lot of fun hearing those Hall of Fame legends in the booths. So I'm looking forward to that. So, as mentioned, next weekend is Darlington Raceway Throwback Weekend. A lot of throwback schemes have come in here and there for a lot of drivers. Not every team's going to run throwbacks, because some of them will wait until Labor Day weekend, like the Wood Brothers, because they always run a throwback on throwback week during Labor Day weekend during the Southern 500. But I'm looking forward to next weekend's race, as mentioned, with those 3 legends in the booth, with Mike Joy and Clint Boyer, and Darlington. And I've got a feeling we're going to see some shifting at Darlington next weekend, which should be very, very interesting. I'm intrigued about what we're going to have next weekend, so I'm looking forward to that. So, hope you all enjoyed the Dover race this weekend. Subscribe, like, thanks for watching, and congrats to Chase Elliott and the 9 team on their first win of the season. Have a great week, everybody. Let's go racing!